So if you're a videographer and you can't decide between the Panasonic Lumix S5 or the GH6, then this video is for you because I've put both of these cameras to the test using my trusty dual camera testing device to get some side-by-side shots and compare the image. Both amazing cameras, and if you've been following me lately, you'll know I'm a huge fan of the S5, but this thing is awesome. Now both of these cameras are jam-packed full of features. Now I'm not going to bore you with all them because A, you can find them on the website, and B, I want to focus on what the image looks like, which is most important, and the usability of these cameras. How easy are they to use? I was using the Leica kit lens, the 12-60 on the GH6, and the S20-60 kit lens on the S5. So it's kind of a fair comparison. I've become a huge fan of the Panasonic S5 camera, and that's because out of all the cameras that I've ever used, the S5 has the best image quality and the best colours that I've ever used, in my opinion. Now this is all personal preference and it's down to personal taste and what you like, but I feel like this camera and the vlog profile is just so good to work with. It's really natural looking and you can colour grade it really easily. Now that is up until now, since I've tried the GH6. The GH6 just has this warmth about it and it's so nice. Now that might be down to the Leica lens that I was using. I'm not sure, I couldn't really do a direct comparison because I didn't have the same lenses to work with. But if you do like that warmth that the GH6 has got and you're using the S5 or you go for the S5, you can warm up the image in post. I feel like the S5 gives you a great starting place to work from when you're colour grading. But the GH6 looks great as it is and you barely have to do anything. Again, that comes down to personal preference because it depends what you need to do. If you need to manipulate the colours a little bit, then the S5 is going to give you a nice starting base to work from. But if you just want to put the memory card in the computer and do as little tweaks as possible, then the GH6 is the way to go. Again, personal preference because you might prefer the image of the S5, but let me know what you think in the comments below. You've got full frame sensor in the S5, then you've got a micro four thirds in the GH6. And just to show you, look at the difference in size. There's the full frame and there's the GH6. So as you'd imagine, there's gonna be a difference in picture quality. The image quality itself on the GH6 is really nice. You've got 4K and 5K options, and the 4K looks plenty good enough, so I'd be sticking to the 4K. If I ever needed 5K, then I'd use it. They both look as good as each other. The only difference is the noise. You do get a little bit of noise on the GH6, so a point there to the S5, if I'm honest. If you like things really well, then that's not a problem. Because the colours and the image looks so nice, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. I'd still consider getting one of these. So the dynamic range is slightly better on the GH6. As you can see in this shot, the S5 is slightly overexposed. The highlights are slightly too bright for me, whereas on the GH6 it's nicely rounded off and it brings a little bit more colour back into the shot. But you can only really notice that when you put them side by side or you look at it after the fact. And don't forget as well, you've also got the dynamic range boost in the GH6. If you want to see some examples of the dynamic range boost, then check this video out here because I did a full review of the GH6. So if you've watched any of my previous videos about the S5, you'll know that I am happy with the autofocus and it works fine for me. And what I found is it tracks you really well, but when you move back and forth, it just takes a little bit of time to focus. It's nice and smooth, whereas the GH6, it's definitely more responsive. It still looks natural, but it's loads better. They haven't changed it to dual pixel as far as I know, but whatever they've done with this new engine in the GH6, it's working because it's fantastic. It's absolutely amazing. Still not quite as good as Canon, but it's completely usable. I would be happy with this. I didn't really do any crazy tests with the image stabilization, but as you can see in this shot where I'm trying to frame things up, there's not much in it, if I'm honest. The Panasonic image stabilization has always been great anyway, but the GH6 is slightly better. I'd be happy with either, but what does help with that extra stabilization is the rolling shutter. The S5, I've never been that happy with it, but it's not a massive problem. It's only one of those things that you notice when someone points it out. But the GH6 definitely takes the point for this one because it's a lot more natural, and again that helps with the stabilization as well and how the image looks. Now I've said this before, the GH6 is not really intended to be a vlogging camera, and if you go for the 12 to 60mm lens, you'll realise that it's not quite wide enough to vlog with. You could get away with it, but it's not ideal. There are lenses out there that do go wider, so you've got options if you need, and it would be a great vlogging camera. It's a little bit on the heavier side because it's got that fan in it, and it's a little bit heavier overall. But I've vlogged with heavier cameras and lenses. So just for a comparison, this is what the 12 to 60 lens looks like on the GH6. I'm at 12mm right now, as wide as it'll go. There you go, as you can see, look. And that's at full arm's length. Now it'd probably be a little bit better if I had the Joby GorillaPod on, so I could hold it a little bit further away. But just for comparison, this is what the 20 to 60mm looks like on the S5. Look at that, because it's full frame, I'm getting so much more in the frame. And 20mm isn't really the widest of lenses to vlog with. Sometimes I wish I had like a 15 or something like that, but this is plenty good enough. So full frame definitely helps when you're vlogging. One of the main things that I think people will really enjoy about the GH6 over the S5 is the continuous recording. Now the S5 has got a 30-minute limit when it comes to recording, whereas the GH6 is continuous. Perfect if you're filming things like shows or wedding speeches that go on forever, if you know what I mean. Pain. It's not a deal breaker for me if we went for the S5 because I use the Ninja 5, so you can record for as long as you like using that until your card runs out, obviously. So I don't really need continuous recording in the camera, but it is a nice to have. So if you film a lot of slow motion, then the GH6 has got a lot more options available to you. Even the 200 frames per second at 1080p looks really good. Now I didn't test a lot of these modes because I don't really shoot a lot in slow motion. If I do, it's mainly 50 frames a second. There's a little bit of a crop, but it doesn't bother me at all, it's fine. If you're somebody that does like to do a lot of slow motion, GH6 has more options. When I was looking at the monitor screen on the GH6, the colours are so much nicer than they are on the S5. For me, Canon have always had a really nice monitor screen. The colours look really good, the contrast looks really good. On other cameras that I've used, they're not great, it's not very inspiring, it's not nice to look at, which is why having an external monitor is a good idea. But the S5 is great. The GH6 is a complete step up. It's amazing, it's really nice to look back on, and it's really inspiring, and it motivates you to go out and film more because the image looks so good. So both of these cameras have very similar features and functions. I love how the S5 is set up. I really like it, especially for video. It's a very video-centric camera. The custom modes and all that sort of stuff is fantastic. And then the GH6 is pretty much exactly the same, but with a few extras. So you've got this audio information button, which means you can toggle the audio information displayed on the monitor. You've also got a couple more tally lights on the GH6. Now I'm not that fussed about tally lights because sometimes when I'm filming something in the dark and then the front tally light is on and it's flashing, that sometimes is picked up in your image and I don't like it. But within the GH6 you can actually turn them off or dim them. So I'd rather have the tally lights and not need them and be able to turn them off than not have them but need them, if that makes sense. So great that it's got the option and you can customize it. In the GH6 you've got two different card slots. You've got the SD card as normal, and then we've got CF Express Type B. Now that's great to have because it allows you to record in ProRes, which is amazing. I love ProRes because the files are so easy to work with. Yes, they're a little bit large, but the problem with this is you don't have the option to use two SD cards. Now I like using two SD cards because you can use them in different ways. You can relay record, or you can record to both together as like a safety option. But if you want to do that with this, you can't. You'd have to buy a CF Express card, which is very expensive. I don't know, it's kind of a point to the GH6 there, but also a point to the S5 because it all depends how you like to work. But I'm pointing this out for consideration. People who do a lot of weddings or that like that safety feature without spending extra money may want to think about that. So which camera wins? Which one is better? Which one is right for you? It's hard to say. There's a lot to think about, as I mentioned before, with lens choices and what you already own. How many cameras you're gonna have. If you go for two cameras, for example, are you gonna have two the same, or are you gonna have two different ones? It's a tricky one. If I was starting from scratch, I'd probably go for the GH6 to be honest, and maybe get two of those, but get a really wide angle lens for vlogging. But yeah, I think like as a video camera, the GH6 has the edge in terms of features, and the colours and the image looks really nice. But full frame, you get a lot less noise in the image and you've got a lot more field of view. It's just that I really have enjoyed using this camera and I don't want to give it back. Let me know which one is your favourite in the comments below, or if you've got any questions as well, I'd be happy to answer them. And if you want to see my full review of the GH6, check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Shall I stop bashing this on the thing?